Before we begin, take a quick second and make sure you're subscribed to the channel. If you enjoy discovering the hidden stories behind old coins, forgotten treasures, and the kind of history that could be sitting quietly in a drawer or a toolbox somewhere in your home, then this channel is exactly for you. Hit the subscribe button and stay with me, because today we're going to uncover something fascinating, something that many people have held in their hands without realizing what it truly represents. Now imagine this for a moment, that you're cleaning out an old drawer in the garage. Maybe it belonged to your father or your grandfather. Inside there are old screws, a rusty pocket knife, a few buttons, and a handful of coins that look ordinary at first glance. Most people would sweep them into a jar and forget about them. But what if one of those coins carried a story stretching back more than half a century? What if that small copper coin wasn't just spare change, but a silent witness to a time when South Africa was a very different place? And what if that same coin could be worth far more than anyone ever expected? Today we're talking about the South Africa 2-cent coin from 1970. At first glance, it looks simple, small, modest, the kind of coin people might overlook without a second thought. But coins like this carry something far more powerful than their face value. They carry history, politics, craftsmanship, and the quiet passage of time. For many men who grew up collecting coins, coins like this trigger something deeper than curiosity. They bring back memories. The feeling of flipping through a small coin album as a boy, sitting at a kitchen table under a yellow lamp, studying dates and mint marks with careful attention. The excitement of finding a year you didn't have before. And sometimes, hidden in those pages, there was always the dream that one day you might discover something rare. The South African 2-cent coin from 1970 was produced during a fascinating era. The world was changing quickly. Technology was advancing, nations were shifting politically, and currencies across the globe were evolving. South Africa had introduced its decimal currency system not long before this coin appeared. For many people living in the country at that time, coins like the 2-cent piece represented modernization. It was part of a new monetary system designed to simplify trade and everyday transactions. But while the coin circulated through shops, markets, buses, and cafes, very few people stopped to appreciate the artistry and symbolism stamped into its surface. Take a closer look at this coin. The warm copper tone immediately stands out. Over the years, many of these coins darkened with age, developing a deep brown patina that collectors actually appreciate. That aging isn't damage. It's character. It tells you the coin has traveled through decades of hands, pockets, and purses. The design reflects a careful balance between simplicity and national identity. Every line, every symbol was chosen deliberately. Back in 1970, the craftsmen responsible for producing coins took their work very seriously. These weren't just pieces of metal. They were official representations of the nation. The metal itself matters too. Coins from this era were made from bronze, giving them that distinctive reddish color and a solid feel when held between your fingers. If you've ever handled older bronze coins, you know they carry a certain weight and texture that modern coins often lack. Collectors often say that coins from the 1960s and 1970s were the last generation of everyday coins that truly felt substantial. And that brings us to something many collectors love to talk about. The sound that if you gently drop a bronze coin like the 1970 South African 2 cents onto a wooden table, it produces a soft metallic ring. It's a sound that older collectors immediately recognize. It's the sound of traditional coinage, before modern alloys changed the character of circulating money. But beyond the physical qualities, what really makes coins like this interesting is the journey they've taken through time. Picture the year 1970 somewhere in South Africa. A worker receives a few coins and change after buying bread at a small corner shop. Among them is a bright new 2-cent coin fresh from the mint. He slips it into his pocket without thinking much about it. Later that day, that same coin might be used to buy a newspaper. A week later, it might pay part of a bus fare. Months later, it might pass through the hands of a farmer, a teacher, or a mechanic. Coins travel quietly through society, moving from person to person, carrying tiny fragments of countless lives. And that's something that fascinates serious collectors. When you hold a coin from 1970, you're holding an object that has witnessed more than 50 years of human history. Think about everything that has happened in the world since then. Generations have grown up. Technologies have come and gone. Entire industries have risen and fallen. Yet that small coin has survived. Many coins didn't. Some were lost in fields or rivers. Some were melted down. Some simply wore away after decades of circulation. That's why condition matters so much to collectors, that a coin that spent years rattling around in pockets might show scratches, worn edges, and faded details. But occasionally, a coin survives in remarkable shape. Maybe it was set aside early by someone who liked collecting coins. Maybe it sat untouched in a jar for decades. When a coin from 1970 appears today, with sharp details and minimal wear, collectors take notice. Because finding older coins in strong condition becomes harder with every passing year. Another factor collectors look at carefully is the minting quality. In any year of production, small variations can appear. Slight differences in strike pressure, alignment, or die condition can create subtle distinctions that specialists study closely. For casual observers, these differences might seem tiny. But to experienced collectors, they can mean the difference between a common coin and something much more desirable. And that brings us to an important truth about coin collecting. Value is rarely obvious at first glance. Two coins might look almost identical to an untrained eye. Yet one might be worth only a few cents, while another could command hundreds or even thousands among collectors. Why? Because rarity is often hidden in details that might be the sharpness of the lettering, the clarity of a symbol, the absence of circulation marks, or sometimes it's simply the number of surviving coins that remain in collector-grade condition. For the South Africa 2-cent coin from 1970, most examples were used heavily in everyday transactions. That means pristine specimens are far less common today. Collectors who specialize in African coinage often search for these coins in the best possible condition. And as time passes, the supply of high-quality examples continues to shrink. Now here's something many people find surprising. Coins that once seemed completely ordinary can slowly become desirable over decades. Not because they were rare when they were made, but because time naturally reduces the number that survive in collectible form. Think about all the coins that were thrown away, lost, or damaged. Every year that passes quietly increases the scarcity of the remaining pieces. That's why older collectors often say patience is the most powerful tool in numismatics. That a coin that nobody paid attention to in 1980 might suddenly attract serious interest 40 years later. But the real excitement begins when collectors start discovering unusual examples, coins that were preserved exceptionally well, coins with interesting mint characteristics, coins that survived in places nobody expected. Sometimes these coins appear in estate sales, sometimes in old safety deposit boxes, sometimes in small family collections that were forgotten for decades. And when those coins finally reach the market, collectors watch closely, because the story of the coin is only part of the appeal. The condition, the rarity, and the demand all come together to determine its true value. And in the case of the 1970 South African 2-cent coin, there's one particular